Hello, hello, guys. Welcome. Come on in, come on in. We'll get started in just a second. We've got a very good show for you tonight. We're going to break down some hard concepts we've been talking about for a while and break down some acronyms, some alphabet soup, if you will. We've been talking about CRT, SEL, all that. And so it's really important for us to understand these concepts. If you're in North Carolina, extremely important. But if you're in other places, also very critical, because I'm going to explain to you how from the top down, June of 2020, North Carolina's public education system changed forever until we can change it back. And we're being lied to. We're being lied to by state officials. I'm going to show you what's going on and how it works. So as I explained to you, June 2020, North Carolina became a castle state. And that means that SEL was the guiding factor. In other words, the 12 standards, there are 12 standards in North Carolina and probably every state that from the top down, the state will mandate that the schools conform to. So all 12 standards have changed in a way that has demonstrably changed our school systems. I'm going to share with you what SEL is, what it does, etc. But here's a schematic for you. This is how the system works in North Carolina. So we've got this top-down SEL. Okay, can you guys read that? Oh, I know. You guys are wondering where Nancy is and Michelle. They're backstage still. They're snacking on stuff in the green room and drinking champagne and getting ready. So top-down SEL in North Carolina, it's two things. First of all, it's Castle SEL, and that is content. That's a pedagogy. That's a teaching system and content. I'm going to show you some of that content in a minute. That content is put into every class from math, which I'm going to show you, English, art, social studies, you get it. So there's a couple of features that you need to know and you need to be able to see here. So with SEL in North Carolina and in every state really, it's very focused, the program, on creating identity. So this is something, creating identity, that you think of doing yourself with your children, right? You think of doing with your church and your extended family. This is what it's focusing on. It's pushing transgenderism and absolutely critical race theory. It's a program of almost extreme self-analyzation. And that is absolutely what we're going to show. All right. Also, Project Aware. That's the medicalization part of this. And so that is what the money is going for. I told you guys earlier about 50 million, but there's actually more. The money is going to medicalize the schools. And in essence, think about it as a psychiatric clinic in every school. That's the goal here. There's going to be, check this out, screening for all students. Okay. So traditionally, if children have shown signs that they may be, have learning disabilities or things that could severely interfere with their learning, then they were screened with the parents' permission. This new system is screening for every single student. In other words, looking possibly for things that are wrong, right? Remember, guys, this is the government screening all children for social or emotional issues. Then there is the treatment for all students, right? Treatment, zero liability. A bill was signed in by Roy Cooper also in June 2020. And it mandated for the General Assembly, it mandated for the state school board to put together a mental health program. And the bill actually exempts any teacher for liability. So think about this for a second. Let's say a teacher could be a very good person, not very well trained, right? They're not trained to do this stuff. They diagnosed with depression, possibly, the kid gets upset and I don't know, maybe something horrible happens. You understand where I'm going with this? The government, okay, is taking the place of the parent here. Now check this out. I told you that in every single class right now, it's mandated that SEL be taught. Here's how it shows up in math. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to read it for you. In math, okay, it's telling the teachers, teach age-appropriate lesson on how to communicate effectively during public speaking, including a discussion why it's important to identify how others feel and what to look for, facial cues, body language. This is in math now. Define and discuss the word empathy as part of vocabulary. What? Discuss the expectations and demands of different settings for public speaking, how we dress, behave, place of worship, formal, etc. This is right now. You can find it on the DPI's website. This is what it is, you guys. Let me show you another one in the math thing. This blows my mind. And by the way, I wish we had this when I was in school for math. Not going to lie, because I'm terrible at it. Teaching practices. Routinely discuss characters in literature or figures in history in terms of how they felt and why they took certain actions and to behave the way they did. This is critical race theory. This is how they're getting critical race theory in math, right? Create small reading groups that allow students a chance to talk about the kinds of things they like to read and why. You get it. It's everything but math, and it's talking about feelings. Routinely examine literature in terms of the perspective on characters identifying feelings and thoughts. This is math. This is not reading. This is not literature. This is math. This is math, the new standards. And I bring this up and I keep stressing it because looky here. Our math scores, I don't know if you know, in the toilet, right? Learning loss is really, really done this state in. It's done every state in, quite honestly. And so we don't need to be doing these things. Now I'm going to show you, this is some tough stuff. So I'm going to show you a standalone exercise for critical race theory. Okay. This came to us via Orange County. This is actually the one I played with James Lindsay and showed him about this. But what you're looking at is, and I don't know if you can see it, I'm going to read it to you. It is asking students to journal, to dialogue journal, and to disclose things about themselves. So social emotional learning is constant self-analyzation and self-disclosure. You're disclosing private information to the class, to your teacher, to the state. Children are being manipulated to disclose personal information in their lessons. An exercise that says line up. So it's constantly challenging students to actually challenge their own values, but in doing it in full view of all their other, their colleagues in school. I mean, think of it as, look, high school, you can handle it, right? Think of it as third graders who have been taught to respect the teacher, that want to impress the teacher, etc. Here's another one. This also came to us from Orange County. So this is very damning because this is talking about, you guys, this is getting students to out others in their class. This is asking, my best friend's name is, my best friends think I am whatever. In other words, how does your best friend label you? Something that my friend does that worries me. So here's where we get into the medication part. I'm going to explain that to you in a second. My mom's name is. Describe the relationship that I have with my mom. This is a standalone SEL lesson, you guys. And I'm going to show you one more. Okay. And this one's a kicker. This is so wildly inappropriate. Questions I have about my face, hair, chest, and body. Questions I have about growing hair on my body, and why am I changing? And when is it okay to kiss someone? This is called grooming. And I want to remind you again, the way the law is written in North Carolina, teachers cannot be held civilly liable for doing this SEL, okay? So I want to tell you that, and I want to very quickly here, because I know in the green room, I mean, honest to God, they've been drinking champagne back there. They're going to come in smashed. I'm very concerned, okay? In the SEL, here's how Castle SEL, guys, whatever your state is, look it up, Castle SEL. Here is the standard practices in every class. Number one, and this is okay, this is cool. I'm cool with this one. Setting the table for your students. Hey, how are you? How's the weather? Did you have a great breakfast? Okay, great. Let's set the table for learning, right? The morning meeting. I don't think any of us can object to that. I kind of like it because I kind of come into whatever situation I'm in on wheels going, oh my God, let's go, guys. This is might actually be a good set the table. Here's where it gets terrifying. Again, this SEL is connected to psychiatrists and mental health people that can treat your child in schools. Make note of students who will not respond in ways that may cause concern. Follow up with a student if there is a concern. Encourage students to sign up for one-on-one time via an online secure form. I wonder if that online secure form includes the parents in this equation. Follow up individually with students who cause you concerns or who sign up for one-on-one. For students which you continue to have concerns about, follow your school's procedure for referring to the appropriate personnel, school counsel, social worker, clinician. This is scary stuff. This is scary stuff. So what I want to tell you, in North Carolina, children can, if they have an emotional disturbance, or if clinicians think they have an emotional disturbance, they can be treated, children can be treated without having to tell their parents about it, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying the law says that. And let me tell you, the SEL program, the aware part of that program, let me tell you about show you the intake form. This is the last thing I'm going to show you. And I'm going to bring you guys in. This is what you're looking at is a clinical instrument. This, for instance, measures anxiety. Okay. This is a clinical instrument. The reason why I mentioned this to you, I got a hold of it because I went into the system, pretended like I was a teacher. This is for children age 11 to 17. This instrument is what you would fill out to be diagnosed with anxiety and perhaps get a sedative or an antipsychotic or something like that. This information, okay, supposed to be with parental consent. We've been reporting on this for the last 9 months. All over the state, parents are not being consulted. And according to law, they don't have to be. This information, 11 years old, would you even know how to answer it? And so teachers who show concern, which some of the teachers are great, some not so great, teachers showing concern will conceivably be able to have treatment done. Okay. Toxin-maxillan. Okay. Yeah, Patrick, I'm agreeing with you. Absolutely. But I'm bringing Michelle in. Michelle is a nurse. Nancy is a doctor, so that we can have some real conversations here. What do you think about what I showed you, Michelle?
Well, I think that we've gone from this point where we now know what is happening. And for us to turn a blind eye, for parents to just say, well, I don't think this is happening in my school. Oh, my son or daughter is going to be fine. I don't think they're understanding the intensity of the pressure to conform and to not stand out and to not be ostracized and to not be ridiculed in a school system. When children are in a school system for 8 and 9 hours a day, we as adults can say, you know what, I could slough that off and I could do whatever. But to the thought that 11 to 17-year-olds, when they are going through puberty, when they are going through all of these chemical changes and physical changes and intellectual struggles, and they're just heaping struggle on struggle because they're not teaching academics. And so when they're spending so much time dealing with people's emotional health, it's like when people talk about, I'm so depressed, I'm so depressed, I'm so depressed. They've said the best way to do that is to go start helping other people, right? To look outside of yourself. But if they're doing this every morning and constantly making them be psychoanalyzing themselves every morning.
Self-analyzing themselves. Michelle, two things here. They're self-analyzing, okay? They're also seeing other students self-analyze, and they're being labeled. Those labels can stay with you for the rest of your life. This is child abuse.
It is absolutely abusive. And Yeah, it's abusive, and it is an absolute, it's a travesty, because this is not what our school system is for. Like, the fact that when you were going through and what the math recommendations for what their strategy is for teaching math, I said this months ago, if you go to the DPI website, there was no discussion of academics. Everything is talking about, and what this is, I said this to somebody the other day. I've homeschooled my kids for a lot of years, and we went year by year, and I would love to not have to homeschool my kids. I would love to be able to put them into the public school system that I have paid tax money for, for all these years. But here's the deal. I said, everybody is concerned about my kids being socialized. And I said, you know what? You are not getting socialized in school. You're getting socialism in school.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the biggest power grab I've ever seen in schools. It's done by both parties. I want to tell you, this is not political. Both parties are doing it. If the money is green, both parties are doing it. I'm telling you, we've talked extensively about this in Catherine Truitt's office, who is the administrator of the funds. Her right-hand man is married to a lobbyist for inside schools psychiatry. This is all corrupt. There's a lot of fingers in the cookie jar. We have to root this out. And by the way, if anyone tells you that you can get rid of critical race theory at the district level, they are misinformed or outright deceiving you. If anyone tells you that we can get rid of Castle SEL, they are deceiving you. People at the state level have been deceiving parents, and we're not going to let it go on anymore. This is Common Core. I'm telling you again, June 20th, everything changed. Castle is a permanent part of the standards. We've been talking about the social studies standards, how awful they are. This is in every single standard, top down. Nancy.
This is evil stuff. They have no business doing any of this. And it just reminds me of all the stories that come out of, Cold War, East Germany, the Eastern Bloc. This is exactly what they did to children. This is exactly what they did to people. They monitored them. They knew how they were feeling all the time. They knew how they were acting all the time. They knew emotions and thoughts of relatives and friends. And that's how they kept track of everyone to keep the opposition down. So this is very much again, I agree with you, Sloan. This is both a Democrat and Republican issue. There were people who were supposed to be looking out for the more conservative perspectives who, if you have any ounce of conservatism in you, would never allow this to happen, that were watching this happen and letting it happen.
Conservatives, Republicans are 75%. 75% of why this is here. Sorry to interrupt. I'm so passionate about this.
No, I know.
2017, this started. The march of it started. We didn't hear one word from any elected officials about this. Not one word. And I'm sorry, but everybody's acting like it's a big surprise. They knew. They knew. They've known. They did nothing about it. We've not had any media write about it. And now we're here trying to reverse engineer everything. Michelle.
Well, but I think something that's important for us to remember is the enemy of freedom is always making things look like it's for our good. And I think to that,
they call this the safe school program.
Yes. And I think that that's something that's important for us to remember, because until this point, no one has been coming out and explaining exactly what this means. I mean, when you come out, and of course, they're doing it after horrific things like school shootings, and they're saying, we need to know if children are struggling, psychologically, and we need to understand if kids have mental health. And we are totally for that. But here's the deal. That was just their excuse for getting in, and they don't care that they be healthy thinkers. They care that they be obedient thinkers, and there's a very big difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. But look, we're merging academics, medicine, with two things: zero transparency and no accountability. We have a system. Zero transparency, no accountability and corruption, plus psychiatric healthcare and academics? Hell no.
Well, I would say this. I mean, we've seen this. How many people have we seen, not just at our school board meetings every week, but around the country, where people are demanding things be done, and it falls on deaf ears because they truly believe that they are the ones that should be making the decisions for all of our children. And I think what's unfortunate is we have allowed that to happen because we are not holding them accountable at the personal level. And the way to hold these people accountable is to remove your child from these public educational systems. I truly believe that the only way that we are going to overcome this is to empty out our classrooms, because there is no way at this point, if the superintendent won't listen, if nobody in the DPI listens, if your local school boards won't listen, and if the teachers are being silenced and not allowed to speak out, and they're being fired if they come out and tell people about it, what recourse do we have? And why is it, guys, that we've gone from taking prayer out of schools, and then you started saying, any type of lifestyle is fine. You allowed boys into girls' restrooms. You allowed boys into girls' sports. We allowed transvestites to come into our public libraries and into our schools. And now we're wondering, oh, this is interesting. Like, now we're upset over masks. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad people are finally getting upset, but this is the reality. Until schools were closed for a year, parents had no idea what was going on inside the public schools. No idea. And this has been going on for decades. This has not just started in 2017. This has been going on for decades. And now they're trying to cover it up, and they're trying to make it look nice. And they are wanting us to believe that they have the best interests of our children at heart. And I will say this, 100%. Who has the best interest of their children at heart? It is the parents. The parents need to be a part of this process. But sadly, we have been allowing the school to tell us to drug our kids for the last 30 years. And we have just been taking it hook, line, and sinker. What they say goes. And it's time for us to wake everybody up and say, no, this is not okay.
I would normally agree with you. I mean, Michelle, you're an abolitionist, and a lot of people are that way. They believe that, shut the schools down, and there's room for that. There's room for all views. But I can tell you one thing, that we're America. We're Americans. We are people of faith. We're not, as a country, we're not going to see children be abused and for us to not do anything. I mean, this is massive abuse. So this is taking, other people's kids and potentially ruining their lives. And we're not going to allow that to happen. So I'm with you, take your kids out if you can. And I know we've talked about this a lot, Michelle, sacrifice anything, because these are your children. The problem is that we cannot allow our government to medicalize schools and basically take over parenting and screw them up. We're screening. We're giving information about families to the government. This is insane, Nancy.
Yeah, again, I can only think of all the stories from, communist Eastern Europe, and I'm going to harp on that. And because this is exactly what they did. This is exactly how they controlled people. This is exactly what they did to kids. This is how, they collected information on everyone, and they were watching everyone. So this isn't a conspiracy theory or anything, people want to make you feel bad or make you think you're crazy. No, this is really happening. And parents have to start making some choices as to, what they're going to do, because the schools are taking advantage of parents not looking. And now they're saying, oh, we're going to put telehealth and pediatricians through telehealth in every elementary school. And one of these, the major funding grant that came through for the NCDPI this week is going towards funding more of that. And on the surface, it's like, okay, well, this could help if some kid, the mom doesn't have to come out of work and pick up the kid, or they live in a rural area and the pediatrician's far away. Hold on. Yeah, you're going to have to, if you have children, you're going to have to leave work to pick them up, to take them to the pediatrician. You're going to have to make decisions. It's not an easy thing to have kids. And so it is not the government's job to make medicine available in school, to make it easier on them, because that is merely an entrance into, well, you don't even have to pay attention. Like, you got a meeting, don't even join the Zoom. Like, we'll handle it, we'll take care of it, we'll do everything. And that's how this stuff gets inserted. And meanwhile, the schools don't even have literacy rates in third grade approaching 50%. How exactly are they going to manage medicine and doctors? I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke to trust that these people are going to successfully do this, and you won't have to worry about anything. It is a power grab. It is the people now in the NCDPI who I am continually disappointed in day after day after day, who are not the brightest stars in the sky, who would be managing your kids' medical information. It is a scary, scary thought. These people should be nowhere near this stuff. It is ridiculous. And it is time for every single public elected official to call this crap out. We're tired of this. I mean, this is we are in a one-party system now. Where both parties have allowed this to happen. It's taken over. It's a huge force. It's all for money. And we're in a one-party Eastern Bloc communist system. This is just insane.
And you know what, Nancy, you and I have we've all talked about this all the time. If parents and if people don't know where the source is, they're going to the wrong source. This is top down. We all have to turn our guns, not really, but you know what I mean, our attention to the state. It's the state. It's the state. The legislature made a law. The school board fulfilled that law. This is what we have. Okay, so I want you to look for a second, because y'all are hitting it on the head tonight. The academic part has been stripped out, as evidenced by this. This is a comparison of different SEL programs, right? There are, there's several. Castle SEL, it completely eliminates academic mindset, academic perseverance. That is, you see that Castle SEL. Do you see this on this far right?
Yeah.
It's gone. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger, you guys. So it's gone. In other words, they concede here. This is not a Castle SEL. See this?
Yeah.
This is not a priority. So let's go over the priority. Self-awareness. You know, there's no more dangerous place for a person than sitting inside their own damn mind. You know that? Honest to God. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, decision-making in every single class. Decision-making according to who? Decision about what? Relationship. Relationship with who and about what? I'm telling you guys, we've been reading this data, and it's completely obsessed with transgenderism. Completely, totally, hyper obsessed, getting kids to question their gender, and they're doing it in kindergarten.
And I told you on Sunday that I spoke to a teacher who is thinking here in Wake County, who's thinking she's going to lose, her position shortly, because she is refusing to teach what they're wanting to teach. And she has screenshots of them going to all of the high schoolers and telling them, be sure to check in with your genetic counselor or with your your gender counselors to determine, if they can help you in one way or another. And what I want everyone to understand, hormonal manipulation is permanent. Hormones are incredibly strong. They're incredibly strong elements. And when we are offering hormones to children that are against their biological gender, before they have gone through puberty, before they have their entire brain developed, if you think that you are confused right now in what gender you are, just add the opposite gender's hormones to you and see how you struggle with anxiety, you struggle with depression, you struggle with being able to focus, you struggle with horrible thoughts, because hormones are powerful. Hormones are measured in micrograms, people, and to be offering those things to our children without parental consent. If you want to talk about people who have strange ideations and hear voices and do things, just keep pumping them with psychotropic medications, with antipsychotics, and with hormones, and you are going to have an absolute nightmare on your hands. This is absolutely wrong. This is not what needs to be done in schools. This needs to be done. And why would you not want parents to know that their children are struggling with something? Because when are they going to do something to harm themselves or someone else? Usually it's when they're at home, right? It's when they're by themselves. It's when they're in their rooms. It's when everybody is gone. Why would you not want parents to know that you think that their child is depressed or anxious? This is absolute. It's absolutely criminal what is happening here. And what I'm saying is this: we cannot wait until our elected officials get on board and start putting pressure on. We have got to protect the children right now that are undergoing this, because once this begins in their life, it can have effect for the rest of their lives, even if they get off of it in a year. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this is not to be played around with. This isn't that they're giving vitamin C tablets or they're giving aspirin tablets. What they are wanting to give are powerful medications that are going to change and hamper and damage their mental and their physical growth from here till forever. You don't know the long-term effects of something. And so when we hear that they are purposely using money, they're taking federal money to be taking absolutely everything educational out of our school system, and they're telling us that they're going to spend 100% of their time on social engineering, the only thing we have left to do is say, you know what, until we get this settled, I'm going to protect my kids. Because I can guarantee you, if they were dropping bombs outside, if we could see the enemy in the air, we would keep our kids home and we would protect them. Just because the enemy is not Pearl Harbor in 1941 does not mean that the threat is any smaller. And that is what we need to recognize. This is not about our comfort. This is not about convenience. This is not about, oh, we just don't like the way the curriculum's going. This is about, we must protect our children.
Yeah, this is the most serious thing. And Michelle, I want to just kind of add some context to what you've said. We have 2 chapters in California. And what we're seeing there is California, you guys, they're only about 9 months ahead of us. So it goes from California directly to North Carolina. North Carolina is probably the worst state in the country right now. It's the most progressive, hands down. So here's what's happening. In California, the same thing has been rolled out, clinics in most of the schools, telemedicine, Nancy, as you said, and the age of consent in California is 12. And hormones are being given. And here's how it's done, Michelle. So a child will identify as I don't know, my gender or whatever. Immediately, you saw that form, right? Immediately, they're sectioned out, and at that point, they don't talk to parents. Why? Because they're giving privacy rights to children to change their gender in school. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And so in California, they're giving children hormones or puberty blockers without parental knowledge or consent. Here's how it works. So a clinician will come in, or, maybe on Thursdays, right, and see these kids who have a problem with their gender. The prescription is written, the prescription is given, and just like California, North Carolina has a contract with Medicaid and managed care providers to pay for medication without people knowing. So kids are taking hormones at school. They're being administered at school. They're killing themselves. The age of consent is 12 in California. It is zero in North Carolina. And I'm going to tell you something else. This last session, there was a bill. I don't know who brought the bill up. It was a bill to forbid puberty blockers to be given to 18 and less, right? That would have prevented this. I understand that Tim Moore did not bring that up for a vote, right? A huge moneymaker for pharma, for big donors to both parties, or hormones, Lupron, etc. You name it. This is a huge, huge business. And 1.5 million kids. I mean, you've got shooting fish in a barrel, as they said.
And I think something else that's really important is when they're talking about medical care, I've not seen anything written about taking kids' blood levels of things. I mean, finding out chemically what's going on with them. Because here's the reality. Does it exist that there are hormone deficiencies in people and they may really feel this gender dysphoria and this confusion? Yes. But my question is, my word, if somebody is really struggling with that to such an extent, why are we not measuring their biological hormones and seeing if they need an enhancement in their own biological hormone? Why is the decision always 100% of the time, oh, you feel that way? Then let's start giving you the hormones of an opposite gender. Why are we not saying, since we do have the tool of hormone replacement that we can help people along the way, why are they not saying there's something very sinister that you don't want people to be contented? You want for them to be changing themselves. Why? Because that means that people can never be able to have children. I promise you, if you take hormone blockers, if you take all of this chemical, basically castration and sterilization, if you change your mind when you're 27 or 28, because remember, we are not who we're going to be when we're 10, 11, and 12, right? I mean, are any of you the same person that you were when you were 12 years old in your mindset about yourself or about anything about the world?
Michelle, here's the problem. I want you to understand the problem. We have a curriculum with SEL. The curriculum is grooming children to question their gender.
I know.
So it's brainwashing. And when they do, they're going to treat them medically. Nancy, you know all about this. I'm going to try to get up the gingerbread man, right? You know all about this. The actual school, you guys, at the DPI, Catherine Truitt herself runs, is a godforsaken hellhole full of this stuff, Nancy.
Yeah. So the governor's school has come of interest because, unfortunately, when we or any combination of education groups start putting pressure on those at the state, they start saying, well, don't look here. You know, it's your local boards you have to be concerned with. And that's true to a point. But they basically deferred any responsibility and tell you to look elsewhere when it's actually in their policies. But anyway, so the governor's school, which is a 6-week residential program here in North Carolina for public and private school gifted students, has turned out to be an indoctrination hellhole for progressive left policies, not just CRT, but also LGBTQ plus activism, to the point where they're silencing conservative opinions and forcing kids into learning this stuff as fact. And it's happening in a residential campus away from parents. Mm-hmm. Kids are 10th or 11th graders. They're the best of, supposedly the best of the best. And they're getting hammered with this stuff. They're forced to take these classes. They don't have an option to opt out. And parents aren't told. And I have confirmed with the NCDPI and the people who run the program that they feel that there's no need to tell parents about any radical ideas. So some very brave whistleblowers have come forth. And even since in this past week, another whistleblower I've been talking to, in addition to the ones from before, again, confirming independent people, confirming each other's stories and experiences. And now I have on record teachers who I know who they are, named teachers who openly brag about how they silence kids in the program who might put forth a conservative opinion. These teachers brag publicly in front of other teachers and in front of NCDPI administrators, and nothing happens. The gender unicorn.
We're looking at this right now. This is how they groom children, right? They're actually putting this in front of kindergartners, cute little innocuous little gender unicorn, to try to confuse them. And again, by the time these 5-year-olds, get to be 12, who wouldn't question their gender, for Christ's sakes? Look at what's going on.
Yeah, this makes no sense. And the actual flying gender unicorn that was passed out as fact at the governor's school, I looked at that extensively. That has some medical information about congenital anomalies at birth that is completely misrepresented. I mean, it's factually incorrect. They list it as a spectrum of like genital malformations. It's not a spectrum, they're stages. It's how you describe it anatomically, you know, so it's like lingo for surgeons to describe to each other like what particular stage of malformation this person has. It has nothing to do with spectrums. Like, it's not like, you know, these are actually very difficult things for parents to go through when they have children with congenital malformations of any type, but especially genital, because you have to figure out, okay, you know, does this match up hormonal? Like, this is not this is not 16-year-old stuff. Like, there are specialists involved. I'm a board certified general surgeon. I don't even really want to go there. You know, I'd have to study it. There are brilliant pediatric surgeons who I know that could rattle this stuff off. But this is not for governor's school. This is not for any administrator at the NCDPI. This is not for any teacher hired by the NCDPI at governor's school. This is not for any average, even gifted 16-year-old. It's medically incorrect. They're teaching kids medically incorrect advanced information. And it's absolutely wrong. And I listened to, and this was included in the governor's school report that I delivered to the lieutenant governor, and that he included as a case study in the task force report. And I listened to the first governor's school board of directors meeting since that report came out on Monday. It was a three and a half hour WebEx meeting, and the public was invited, and I listened in. No mention, zero mention when both our Senate Majority Leader, Phil Berger, mentioned governor's school, and the lieutenant governor mentioned governor's school a few times, that there's a whole case report dedicated to governor's school in the task force report. Catherine Truitt was there saying that she read through the task force report and was appalled, and she supported HB 324. It was great. She was not at this meeting. No one in her stead. And the people at this meeting, which were the board of directors, as well as the NCDPI administrator, Sneha Shah-Coltrane, and Tom Winton, and some others, zero, not one word, not a one. So that tells you right there what they think, that this is totally okay. I now have word from additional whistleblowers. This is throughout. Like, this is not a one-off teacher thing. Like, these were slides that were developed for multiple classes that you can't opt out of, that there is a culture there to silence student conservative voices. Students are scared to say anything. They're away from their parents.
They're away from their parents for 5 weeks. This is a 5-week boarding school. So you want to talk about brainwash and fish in a barrel. Nancy just said they can't opt out. So it is, we've looked at it. Nancy's been on this. Nancy, you've been the first and only in North Carolina to really stay on this issue. This is a school directly run by the DPI. They have a captive audience big time, and they don't give a damn about this. They're not listening to the lieutenant governor. They're not listening to, I mean, I can tell you one thing, not to pick on Truitt. She's a superintendent, but my ass would be at this meeting, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean,
I was there at the press conference, and two senior Republican leaders in the state called out a program that's run directly. Like, there's no LEA here. There's no other. And she's, you know, Sneha Shah-Coltrane has very public political positions that she puts out there that are
what they are.
Somewhat pretty radical. She's a supporter of the SPLC, among other things. She's totally on board with this stuff. She believes in this stuff. She's tweeted out white privilege stuff more than a few times, along with other things. And she's running the program. And Catherine Truitt knew that because I gave her the tweets beforehand in person. So if I'm at that press conference and I'm hearing governor's school mentioned from the two top Republican elected officials, one of them, well, both are pretty popular, one especially popular, I would be at that meeting virtually, and the first thing I would ask is, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm. Pretend you care. The bottom line is this, is that, and we're very passionate about this. Know where this is coming from. It's coming from the state. We're not telling you don't go to the school board meetings. I'm not saying that, but I'm telling you right now, if you're going to the school board meetings with the intention of stopping critical race theory or any of the things we're talking about tonight, SEL, it ain't going to happen. Now, what are our plans? We're all outraged. What are our plans? I'll be candid with you. I don't know. Something. There's going to be a legal response. There's definitely going to be a legal response. So I can tell you that's coming. The legal response is coming. We all have to turn our attention on the state. We're investigative journalists over here at EFA. We're coming out with 3 or 4 pieces. Our mission, Nancy, you're a researcher here. Our mission is to tell you where to look for the documents and for us to write about it, because you have to be informed about where this is coming from, right? You're so right, Michelle. Like, this is not about rah-rah, sis, boom, bah, vote for this particular person in 2022, because we ain't gonna make it to that.
Well, when we know that this is embedded in every part of the curriculum, why are we subjecting our children to one more day of this curriculum? I mean, until it has been changed, what is the point? Because the reality is this: we think that we are sending our children to school in order to be learning to read and write and do math. And that's not happening. Like, no. We've been told that they are being put into a medical experiment system. Yeah. And then we're like, oh, but I can't bring them home because, how will I do that? I'm telling you, if they read a book with you during the day, they will be getting more than what they are getting in the public school system right now. It's hard for me to fathom, because does it need to be changed? It absolutely needs to be changed. But until it is, what kind of undoable damage are we doing to the most vulnerable, the most trusting, and the most malleable people in our society? And that is the problem too. Children trust the adults that are in front of them.
It's so manipulative. So a couple of things. We're getting some ideas. That's why we're here. I mean, we're going to come at this together. Mass mailings. You're right. I think we need to go and do the town crier stuff again, and the what is it called? The pamphlets.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you because I actually had that brainstorm earlier today or yesterday about governor school. I was like, we need to get the list of the families and alumni from governor school, as many as we can, and send them the Christian privilege list printout, send them the intellectual privilege list, the white privilege, the male privilege, the gender unicorn, the CRT stuff as fact, print it out and just mail it to every parent and alum we possibly can from that school. I'd love to see the answering phone calls the next day.
We should also find out who are the people that are the big funders.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
I mean, we do need to follow the money, obviously, and we have to know where it's coming from. But also, a lot of the funding is the federal government, and it does work because, for example, when the Biden rule came out in March, April, no left turn, ed first, a lot of activist groups worked to get people to make public comments, and had to actually go back on that. But I emailed the Governor's School Association or Foundation, which fundraises for the Governor's School. Didn't get an email back. I said, are you telling parents that they're learning this stuff at the school? Are you aware? Are the alumni that are part of this organization aware that this is being forced on children without parental consent? No email back. And they were part of the meeting on Monday. One of the leaders or the board director of the Governor's Club or the Governor's School Foundation was present during all 3.5 hours of that meeting. Not a word, nothing. So, sometimes the funders are in on it. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, but I think
so one thing that we have done is this petition. I mean, stop spying on children. This is an appropriate time to bring this out. Stop spying on children. We've been doing this. I can tell you that Nancy and I, Catherine Truitt, told us directly that when she sees communication that she suspects comes from anything that we're doing, what does she do with it, Nancy?
She tosses it.
Yeah. So that's why, yeah.
Sorry, that's what she said.
Sorry. And so
of listening in front of Sloan, she told me I was listening to Sloan's lies. And I'm like, but my experiences have been totally separate from Sloan. Like, we only met like a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, look, these people in charge they don't care. So the pressure campaign, somebody asked about who we can do for a pressure campaign. Again, I think, obviously Truett is administering the stuff. She's not being honest. The school board, but ultimately the General Assembly. I mean, you've got Deanna Ballard who put up the law that actually mandates mental health treatment in schools now. Yeah. So Deanna Ballard, and you've got your local representative. You need to hammer the hell out of them. Look, no one should get your vote in 2022. No one, if they're not going to stop this and make it absolute priority number one. I'm telling you.
Well, I think a practical thing that we could do is find all of the people that were that supported this bill, not just Ballard, but everyone else, because usually there's about 6 or 7.
Yes, and it was Craig Horn. It was all Republicans. This was a Republican bill.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they looked at this. They looked at this as absolutely, we know that mental health is an issue and we want to take care of it. And they manipulated that just like they did back in March of 2020 when they said, you don't want all the old people to die. You people are all pro-life. So you better stay home for just 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then you better stay home for a month. And then you better put on a mask. And then you better get your shot. And then you better get your second, your third, your fourth. And, and that's what they do. They manipulate something that seems good. So I think
if it seems good, then why did they put a clause in there that exempted teachers, school administrators from any lawsuit?
And I will say that is because they are worried that the teachers, because they're not trained in mental health, they are worried that the teachers are not going to speak up if they see an issue with a child, because they're going to attack the teacher to say, well, you don't have a psychological, you see what I'm saying? But like, that's what they would say. They would say, well, you're not going to get the teachers to speak if they think that there's a child that's in danger, because they're going to be worried that they're going to be attacked.
No, that seems like a little bit like the qualified immunity stuff.
I respectfully disagree, and only because this is different. This is different because this is asking them, Michelle, to go outside of their scope of practice. So what I think is this, what you're talking about here, y'all, you're talking about a big old mashup, education law. You're talking about DEA stuff. Could they sell the drugs somewhere? You're talking about healthcare law. You're talking about privacy. You're talking about 6 branches of law. And I bet you that schools cannot be indemnified if teachers and principals are working outside of their scope of practice and into the practice of a clinician who's licensed. That's what I think. And if that is true, then that means there was some forethought there. And that's not what I've never seen a bill like that.
I'm not saying these people are innocent. I'm saying that this is what I'm thinking their defense is going to be, that this is what they were saying. So we need to be prepared with the facts and the statistics and go to them and say, listen, since you were the one that pushed this forward, I think you need to be the one to undo this. Are you willing to undo this? And if you're not willing to undo this, we are going to be sure that we find someone to replace you.
Yes. Deanna Ballard, she's up for re-election in 2022. She's in the Boone Blowing Rock area. She is she's a senior person here. She's head of the Senate Education Committee. She's the one. You're right. They always go out of purpose, right? For these things. It needs to be reined back in. I'm telling you what, a lawsuit is coming.
Yeah.
And Jordan, I mean, don't be black-pilled, please. I almost go there every day. I ask myself.
What does that mean, by the way?
So the black pill means there's like no hope.
You don't care anymore. Okay.
So the white pill means that you have hope because people are waking up and they recognize that what corporate press and politicians are showing you is not reality, and you have hope that now that you can see that, there'll be a positive future. The black pill is a black pilled person is thinking this is all terrible, terrible news, and things aren't going to end well.
I think we need to pressure Deanna Ballard. I think if you want to call someone, we need to pressure Deanna Ballard, don't you? I mean, she needs to go. I've met her and fine person, but I'm telling you, having your name on this bill that says we mandate the State Board of Education, who are radical loonbats not elected, to come up with a mental health policy, and this is what they did. This is beyond unacceptable, guys.
Yeah. So the white pill is to share Sloan's videos and to share these videos and to speak up, because there's more power in numbers and courage is courageous. And there have been so many people that are joining every day and speaking up and are getting really, really, really upset. So you have to, I tell people there's no more news. Like, just shut off the news. I don't even, conservative, whatever.
Keep us on.
Yeah. And you have to start going to the people who are speaking out grassroots level and some of the more not as famous intellectuals to start realizing what's really going on. So you have to share this video and you have to say,
you have to.
These people are in their homes, like before they're putting their kids to bed, but just listen to them anyway.
But one other thing that I think is going to be pivotal, we really need to be having conversations with our children. Mm-hmm. We need to be explaining to them, especially middle school up to high school, and explaining to them, and we need them to be showing us screenshots, showing us the emails, taping what's happening in their classrooms. We need for them to be reporting what is happening so that we can help them. And it needs to be strategic so that they are not called out, because that's what they're trying their whole life to do, is just stay under the radar, just to get out of school, right? I don't want to make any waves. I just want to get to where I want to be. And we need to be supporting them and teaching them how to think for themselves, and that we are going to be there to support them. Parents are going to be there to support them when they do understand and see what's going on. And I think that's going to be key too, is we've got to have these conversations with our kids.
Great point. I mean, that's a great point. Here's another survey, guys. And I want you to know the surveys, they're doing surveys all the time. You saw that self-standing assignment that I showed you, the journaling. Constant journaling, constant games where I'm this, who are you? My mom's this, who are you? Opening up and saying that. So they're going to entrap the children for a diagnosis. Here's another one, a youth resilience measure. I have people who are role models for me. I cooperate with people around me. Education is important. I know how to behave. I mean, and here's a standard Likert scale. Likert scale is used in social science research, which that's kind of my domain. And again, there's no real litmus test, no compelling litmus test here for a mental health disorder. So it's all
subjective. Nothing is objective.
What? Y'all, I forgot to tell you, the most horrifying thing is this is all done in the name of equity.
Education.
You are diagnosing children on the basis of equity. Let's say, okay, well, this children is this skin color, right? So I think they're behaving in this way. And then you set them up to get medication. I'm telling you right now, this is not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy, but it ain't a theory.
That's right. When you have facts to back up the theory, it's no longer a theory. It's just a conspiracy.
Well, I mean, the facts back it up. Look, I mean, we love our teachers, but I don't know. There's about a third of them that are kind of off the rocker. So you can see, right, that a teacher would have ill will. Let's say a parent went to the January 6th event, for instance. They may think that the child is in danger because of that. Telling you, these people are very far left. They may need treatment. It is going to happen. I guarantee you, and we have to stop it.
Yeah. There was an Orange County school board meeting, Orange County, North Carolina, near Hillsborough area, on Monday night, I believe. And, 9/11, the remembrance and everything from this weekend. So on Monday, just after that, and they didn't know ahead of time, groups of parents, or the few that were allowed in the building, unfortunately, walked into a pride flag and a Black Lives Matter flag, huge, hanging on each side of the entrance into the room. There was no state of North Carolina flag, and there was a tiny, tiny, like smaller than a piece of paper, American flag hanging off in the corner of the wall. And one of the board members made a motion to do the pledge. The rest of the board members wouldn't do it, like hesitated, wouldn't do it. And so the people in the room, the parents who'd gone there to protest some of their issues, stood up, faced this tiny little American flag 2 days after the 20th anniversary of September 11th, and led the room in the Pledge of Allegiance, not the school board. They were busy having hung their huge Pride and Black Lives Matter flags to the point where you couldn't even find an American flag in the room, and there was a tiny one in the corner, and it was the people
Garbage.
who were doing the pledge. I mean, these are the same people sitting up there on that school board meeting who were hesitating and refusing to do it. They signed their emails in service to children.
Service to other people.
Incredibly nutty people.
It's just, the whole thing is insane. But again, I'm with you, Michelle. Stop at nothing to get your kids out. I'm totally with you. But we're here because we really do care. We really do care. I said last night, I was on I was talking with Deb Philman last night, and I said, look, the reason why we exist for the parents who don't know. We exist for people that are literally in their lives hanging on by their fingernails. They don't know if they're going to get their next paycheck. This is all they have. We're doing it for them. And guess what? They don't know what we're talking about. They don't need to know, because we're doing it for them. This is a service for them, for their families, for their children. And we need 10,000 more of us, right? We need all that we can actually get. But we've got to hold the state responsible. There's a lot of Michiganders on this call. You have to look for it at your state. The first place you're going to look is on the Department of Education's website. That's where you're going to look. Okay. You're going to look through there, and then you're going to start, right, holding them responsible. How do you do that? Well, you have your own Facebook Lives, or divert people over to what we're doing. You call them out. You talk to your legislators. You hold them responsible. Michelle, you got any other ideas?
I would actually, since everybody seems to be doing everything at the exact same time, because I truly believe this is this is coming down from the top. I would even have anybody that's from a different state go and look at what bills were passed in your state.
2020.
In 2020, in the spring and summer of 2020, that we're talking about mental health clinics and things in your school. Go find out what was done in your school, in your state legislature that you don't know about, because that what's done in the darkness there's a lot of evil that's happening that people never even know about. There's so many things that they talk about and that they pass week by week by week that we have no clue. We have no clue.
Yeah. And I want to tell all you guys on here, because you can attest, you know this. When we started pointing in the right direction and exposing what the state was doing, how much trouble did we get in? Oh, they have been coming. We call that Tuesday around here, guys.
They will attack you from all sides. They don't like people looking at them. Yeah, no.
They have tried to absolutely destroy us, from completely defaming us to almost having us arrested, to Nancy, calling us criminals, to suing us, to keep us quiet.
I was threatened with jail time for something. I don't even know. I've been called names from people on all sorts of sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah, when you get, look.
It's truly for the kids, you're going to call out what's getting in the way.
That's right. And hey, look, we eat this stuff for breakfast, guys. We don't care. But my point is, look, you go after the damn bank of the state, right? It's like 52% of all spending, state spending, is education. You go after that, right? It's a totally different ballgame than going after the local school board, but it must be done.
Well, I want everybody to think about this. 52% of the entire spending spent on education, and we have dropped halfway. We used to be 39th in the country,
No,
in our
19.
educational system, and now we're 18th, right?
No. We used to be number 19, the 19th top school in 20.
Oh, and now we're the 38th.
39th. No, 39.
Okay, yeah, the other way around.
But
Yes.
look, and by the way, God, why don't you hear this? Listen to me. We are North Carolina is the most progressive school system in the country, hands down. Let me tell you something. California has ethnic studies. That's really what happened on the scene. Ethnic studies, which we have ethnic studies also, but it's for high school. We have K through 12 critical race theory. K through 12. It's not relegated to just a couple classes. This is the worst state in the union, brought to you by both parties.
And it's public and private, no matter what school you have.
That's right.
What happened to me was in a private setting, but it's part of a chain that goes into public charters too, and that's how I became aware of it. So it's just, you have to be in your classroom. You have to encourage other parents to be in their classrooms, to volunteer, to get in there, to talk to your kids every day. I just happened to be keyed in on this because my first grader said one or two words, the combination of which struck me as strange. And I started asking some questions and found this huge hellhole. Yeah. And there are so many people who say the same things and have the same stories. It's a silent majority. And so the more we speak out.
Can't be silent.
You got to talk about it. You got to.
Julie, Massachusetts is number 1 with their school system and has been number 1 for years. You're moving to the 39th. And I'm telling you, we're in a race to the bottom. Honest to goodness, I think that they're trying to make us the worst. I don't know. We know a lot of teachers got them in our movement. I don't know how the hell they're going to do it. I mean, how do you make room to teach this stuff and math? Oh, gosh, from NYC. Hey, listen, Al, you need to come down here and bring your attitude. Let's go, man. Yeah. Hey, we're reformers.
That's the kind of New Yorker we want.
That's right.
Calm down.
We'll trade you for a couple of the people we've been talking about tonight, right? But we need this movement. So what I need you to do, everybody, if you have not signed up for our mailing list, I suppose I can forgive you. It's going to be difficult. I would lie to me and tell me that you already have. But if you haven't, you have to get on our mailing list now, right now, okay? Because we give you reports, actions, etc. We come out with about 2 a week. We do these. It's really been a long time, girls, but it's been a while since we've got the band back together. But so you'll be kept aware. We work with a lot of different groups that are grassroots that get out there and go to the legislature and take it to the streets. Michelle, you can tell us all about that. Nancy, you've got No Left Turn, which, I mean, all together, we're a force to be reckoned with. So what I'm telling you is what we've exposed, y'all, since January is unbelievable. So we're going to keep what we've done is unbelievable. And by the way, we've got their number. Now it's time to mash the buttons and call that number.
Just have to hammer them over and over and let them know you're watching.
Yeah.
I've shown up at state level board meetings and this governor's school virtual thing. They knew I was there.
They don't like
at the end of Monday's meeting, the governor's school, Sneha Shackletrain, said, and now we need to close the meeting off to the guest. Please close her out. Because obviously they wanted to talk about it.
Do you mean, look, their only job is to work for us. We don't let them forget it. Their only job is to work.
It was interesting that she noticed there was a guest present. So, anyway.
Your worst nightmare. Oh, Eric, yes, please. If you guys could give $10 tonight, it will definitely help. Let me tell you what it helps for. All the investigation that we're doing, FOIAs, they cost money. We have a lawsuit coming up. We're going to be announcing that. We have meetings, many meetings. We aim to, actually, we've done youth meetings in the past. We aim to have a few more of those to not really arm students, but arm them with information or give them information, right? Better watch that. So yeah, look, $10. Okay. It may pay for, a cup of coffee or something. I'm joking. But, in other words, you would take from you would take from your coffee money and give it to us. Thank you, everybody. So, Michelle, it's great to have you on because, again, you're a grassroots activist and you're a nurse.
You're a force.
And I'm a mom of 5 who has done public, I've done private, and I've done homeschool, and I've seen the incredible downward spike toward the cesspool of progressivism and socialism, and really think about it. The kids are only in school for 12 years.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a very short period of time that they are doing this in. And so I hurt for my kids because I'm worried about the people that they're going to be in community with. And, and we should all be concerned. We should all be concerned. And that's why I'm saying we don't stop. We cannot stop pushing forward and making this change. The one reason for government is to secure the rights of the people. I keep repeating that to people. Read the Declaration of Independence, read the Constitution. The reason why government was created by people was to protect their individual rights. And this is the absolute opposite of that.
Yeah, this is an overreach. This is an overreach. This is an overreach. We're going to stop it. Lance, just closing this out. We are in 26 different states. So the latest state is in Michigan. Michelle, Stand Up Michigan with that organization. They're starting an education. Yeah. So we're in all states and we're organizing. But again, finding the root of the problem is what we're dedicated to. So I'm going to close that out for tonight. I don't know when all 3 of us are going to be back on, but I know that we're probably going to be back on, Sunday night. So Sunday night, be ready. We're going to have another education update and a lot more to tell you. Look for my story tomorrow, optimistically. Thursday at the very latest. I'm going to be bringing you the story on this, breaking it down, and I want you to check all of our primary documentation. Nancy, we're the queens of having the primary documentation.
If you happen to be on Facebook and you search for No Left Turn NC, I run that little private group. So, and I'm very careful screening and tons of primary information that I dig up, that people around the state dig up, a lot of information and resources. If you scroll through, we kind of treat it like a blog and share a lot of stuff, obviously. So No Left Turn North Carolina Facebook page is private. So you have to request entry, but even if you're from another state, because a lot of this stuff cross state lines.
I'm telling you, you're gonna see it everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of social media research I do on people, pointing stuff out, all of that stuff. So that's another, and No Left Turn in general. It's just good.
Yeah,
people.
It's just a good plan of action.
Good plan of action.
No left turns.
No, that's right. Always right. But even
no, it's nonpartisan. I mean,
even right. We have
this whole controversy about the name.
We're ideologues. I'm going to tell you, we're ideologues. We're not politicians.
I'm anti-communism and anti-stupidity is what.
Here. All right. And with that, we're going to wrap it up for the evening. Thank you very much for everyone coming on here. And we'll see you on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Put that on your calendars. We'll see you then.